Hey everybody, welcome back to Active Self-Protection Extra. It's Neil. Want to talk about your dry fire.
You need a shot timer because that which gets measured gets worked on. The Range Tech Timer is the official timer of Active Self-Protection because it is versatile, reliable, feature-rich, and very economical. Check out all it can do at the link below.
All right, so we just got home from the ASP National Conference where we had 120 some people show up, raised a boatload of money for the kids at the camp there, had a blast, met a lot of new friends, got to catch up with a lot of old friends. But one of the things that kind of came out to me at this that really stuck out was the fact that everybody talks about dry fire, but a lot of folks really don't know how to dry fire or what to work on. And so I really want to talk quick and go all the way back to setting up a dry fire dojo, getting ready so that you can work safely. A few weeks ago we talked about a roadmap and all of that kind of stuff, but the challenges that I think a lot of folks have is that even though they may begin to have the light coming on, or maybe they don't even have that yet, is there's a nervousness around handling guns in our house, and typically our dry fire handles in the house, or handling is done in the house. I'm out here on the Widener Range today doing some videos, but I want to talk about this really quick because it's something that's kind of on my heart. Is that a lot of folks think that dry fire is sitting in front of their TV and just pulling the trigger of their gun. And I've got a blue gun on here that I put on just for that. It's a VP9 blue gun, so no ammo in this thing at all. But what they will typically do is they'll sit there and they'll use targets on the TV as something to aim at, or they'll aim at light switches in their house. And you know, when we talk about the rules of safe gun handling, one of the things that we talk about is you know, pointing the gun in the direction of least consequence. I don't know about you, and maybe you want a new TV, but I don't want to go buy a new TV. And while I'm not terrified of working on putting on a new light switch, I don't want to put a new light switch on my house if the worst happens. So set up something that gives you a place that you can go and actually focus on the dry fire and focus on getting better with your gun. And you can use a blue gun for a lot of this dry fire if you're brand new to it. That's completely fine and acceptable. You can get these things for like 20, 30 bucks. There's, I mean, just about any make and model of gun these are available for. So just Google your gun that you carry and then put blue gun after it. You'll probably find somebody that will make one for the most part. Not all of them. They may not be for everybody, but most of these you can get. And then you can use your holster, which is a beautiful thing, right? Then go set up a room down in your basement or somewhere where you've got a safe direction, whether the gun is unloaded or you're using a blue gun or not. Act like it is, and act like you're doing something that if the worst happens, bad things can happen. I know a person in Arizona that had a negligent discharge during their dry fire. That's a felony. Just say $15,000 it cost this person to maintain their gun rights. If you've got 15 grand lying around that you just want to throw away, give me a call. I got plenty of projects around here that I could borrow that money and we could have a lot of fun with it. But do this safely, right? Take it seriously and have a good time with it, but take it seriously and try to get better. If you're just sitting there watching TV and you're focused on your cop show or your comedy or whatever, chances are you're not really getting everything out of your dry fire that you need, and you're not getting a whole lot better doing it. So find a place that you can do this safely. I live in South Dakota. We all have basements here. In the basement, any wall that I shoot at has dirt behind it. So if a round went off in my basement, I'm gonna have ringing ears and tinnitus and all of that kind of stuff to deal with, but I'm not gonna have legal issues as well, right? And if I'm upstairs and I shoot through 3 walls and into my wife or kids or dog or whatever, I've got a whole lot more to deal with, right? If you don't have a basement, then get a bookshelf. Pack the books really, really tightly and put your target on there. And use a target. In dry fire, I like to use small targets, 2 inches or less, because I'm typically a lot closer than I'm gonna be when I'm out at the range. You know, you may be doing your dry fire at 1 yard or 2 yards or whatever. Use a 2-inch circle as a target and be really, really honest with yourself that, did you see that? Did you get your hit? Did everything that you needed to happen dry? And so the way that looks like is I press the gun out, I see my sights on the target. I may or may not move my trigger finger at that time. I may have done all of this earlier. That's a whole nother thing. But once I'm on that target, if I pulled the trigger, am I exactly where I need to be? And then register that mentally. If I'm just sitting here pulling the trigger and resetting it and pulling the trigger, yes, I'm getting some reps on my trigger and I'm breaking my gun in for sure. But am I becoming a better shooter by sitting in front of the TV pulling the trigger? I mean, I'll challenge you with one. It's not as safe. It's probably not a great idea. I know a person, a good personal friend of mine, literally shot himself in the hand that way, right? Because we're focused on something else. He was doing his dry fire, just pulling the trigger. The phone rang. While he was on the phone, he reloaded his gun, got done with his phone call. I think that's the story anyway. Racked the slide, didn't realize that he didn't even remember because he did that while he wasn't focused. Loaded his gun up and was sitting here with his hand in front of the gun and pulled the trigger. That kind of stuff happens, folks. And so we've got to focus. We've got to really spend some time. Now, I'm not saying you have to go spend an hour in dry fire every day like some folks do. I'm saying go spend 5-10 minutes, but do it safely, do it right, and have some fun with it. And you will become a better shooter. You can do it you can start with something like this, a piece of plastic. If you don't have one of these, get a barrel block. I think they're like, I don't know, 12-13 bucks for your typical 9mm barrel block. So you can do that safely in your house with no ammo in the gun. And then start working your roadmap so that you can get from point A to point B. Do it safely. You'll get there a lot quicker and you'll have some fun doing it. If you need some feedback or some help with your dry fire, we have a group on Facebook called the ASP Dry Fire Challenge. I typically am the one that manages most of the stuff in there, but John's in there, Steph's in there. Most of the ASP staff is in there. If they're not, I need to know about it. And there's a whole lot of other experts in there. Tim Herron's one in there that comes in and gives people advice all the time. Man, if you haven't got to train with Tim, here's a great chance to get to meet him and understand who he is and get some feedback from a real world expert. You know, he's a GM level shooter. There's those kind of folks in there that will help you figure out how to dry fire better, more effectively, and get better quickly. So this week's assignment for you to suck less is make sure that you have a dry fire dojo that no ammo gets into, that you're always safe in, and that you're practicing with the right at the right mental space, so that you're focusing to get better, not just to pull the trigger. Have fun with it. We'll see you next week.